I still have to stop myself from grooving to the intro because it gets stuck in my head all the time. Hello, friends. Welcome to today's episode of Booked. My name's Saffron Asteria, and I'm joined today by Millie Abecassis. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so glad you were able to make it. I've got so many questions for you, largely because you do a lot of stuff. You're not just like this like passive writer that's maybe got one book, which is great. I love it when people have that because we can dive into the book itself. But I also have a ton of other questions for you. So before I start bombarding you with things, could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and your writing?
Of course. So I'm Millie Abecassis, originally from France, as you can probably tell by the accent. But I know it's not as thick as the average French person, which confuses a lot of people when they see me for the first time. I've had people saying, "Are you from France? France?" Or, I'm like, "Yeah, actually from France, born and raised there." Not a lie. French is my first language, but I started learning English when I was pretty young, so maybe it helps. But it's mostly that I've been living in the US for a while now. So I moved to
Mhm.
California um, 11 years ago, if I do the math correctly. And
Mhm.
I've been writing, for a long time, originally in French. I did a lot of fanfics and all of that, like
Mhm.
many writers did. It's a really cool way to, start, practicing your craft. And eventually I made the transition to writing in English 6 years ago, 5 years and a half. And with the decision to like go serious and, really get published. So the getting published started last year, which has
Mhm.
been really, really exciting. I work with small publishers, which I really love.
Mhm.
And I publish, I write across all the speculative fiction genres. So from your weird speculative slash sci-fi mystery to more classic fantasy or fairy tale retellings. I'm also dabbling in horror,
Mhm.
either by incorporating horror elements in my fantasy or sci-fi fiction, or
Mhm.
by actually writing just like horror stories. So I have one that should be coming this year in an anthology, by the way, which is really
Oh,
just pure
cool.
classic horror. It's not really been announced yet. I'm still waiting, to learn more about it. But
Mhm.
hopefully, I'll have something to share about that horror story coming in this anthology.
Awesome. We're already getting some yeses for horror. I was thinking like, yes, this is so
Yes.
good. Hello, Blake Myers. Nice to see you. We also have Sarah. I wasn't calling you out, Sarah. I've read other books that you've written. Okay, so calm down. Oh, hello as well. Yeah, you have got some. You've already got quite a significant back catalogue, and with working with small presses, I can see that you've worked with the Nucci Press for a couple of releases. And you also, so A Legacy of Blood and Bone was with Brick and Bloom. If I've got this wrong, tell me.
Yep.
So that came out last year. And you had two other books that came out last year. So one with Polymath Press, so that's Bright City Shattered, and Anucci Press, Daughters of the Blue Moon. So you had a busy 2025.
Yes.
You have agent representation, and you have all these publishers that you're working with, and you also have two releases that are coming out this year. So that's The Seventh
Yes.
Sister, so that's next month,
Yep.
and The Color of Time, which is in May. How do you ever stop? Like,
I That's a great question. It's a combination of two things. One is you're right, I don't stop. I always have something cooking, always a manuscript I'm working on. The
Mhm.
second thing is also just publishing schedule, which I don't really control because I'm working with publishers.
Mhm.
And if we look at, for example, The Color of Time, which is coming out this year, or Bright City Shattered that came out last year, I wrote this manuscript a while ago.
Mhm.
It just happened that Polymath Press, which I worked with for Bright City Shattered, was ready to publish it last year. It could have come the year before, in the sense that I was ready to work on it, but they were busy with other things, which I completely understand. I'm not the only writer they have; they have other
Mhm.
titles. And for The Color of Time, it's been also quite an interesting journey because I had originally signed with another press
Mhm.
3 years ago. Things happened. I got my rights back, and so we signed again with a new press, and
Mhm.
so that kind of explained, why it's all like coming at once. It's because of all those little like things that happens with the publishing schedule.
Mhm.
So it's not like I wrote 5 manuscripts in a year and a half.
Okay.
Three of them were written already several years ago, and by
Mhm.
the time I found a publisher and then signed with them, and then the publisher is ready to like for it to come out. It can take a while. So yeah, it's been a crazy year in 2025, and this year is also getting quite busy. I'm not planning on stopping in the sense that I'm still gonna keep writing.
Good for you.
Right? Would not say no to maybe a slower release schedule. So I, I think 2 a year is great. If it's more
Mhm.
than that, I'll still do it, right? But it's a bit crazy. So yeah, I think having 2 a year going forward might be nice, a bit
Yeah.
more manageable because I also have a full time job, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a full time writer. If I were, oh yeah, I would be happy to do 3, even 4. Well, maybe not 4. That's a lot. Um, I mean, I say that, but T. Kingfisher, who is one of my favorite writer ever, she writes. I think she publishes 3 to 4 books a year. She
That's
even jokes that she's like
bonkers.
just writes too much. And I'm torn between yes, because I have barely time to keep up with what you write, but also please keep them coming because I really love your writing. So it's. I don't think it's a bad problem to have. So I'll keep being productive as I am today, and we'll see for the release. Maybe it's gonna slow down based on the publisher we sign with and when they plan on releasing those books.
Mhm.
And that's a great question. Do I sleep?
Yeah.
I try. I do my best. I should sleep more. I know that's
Do
one
you
of my good
sleep?
resolution for the year, to
Is it?
sleep more, have a better better sleeping habits.
I bet you fall asleep like surrounded by bits of paper and pens and pencils and your mad scribbling.
If I were writing on paper, which actually I do almost everything electronically,
Mhm.
that would be a great fault. I actually have a laptop by my bed.
I knew it was going to be
So
something.
yeah, I have a laptop by my bed, and so sometimes I'll pick it up and write in the evening while I am in bed and I should be
Mhm.
sleeping, and instead I'm just like, yeah, writing on the laptop.
You've got to do what you've got to do, and I know that a
Exactly.
lot of writers. I don't know if you find this. A lot of writers like can't rest until they have it out of them, like they're possessed with something,
Yes,
or that they're gonna miss out if they don't get it down on paper. Are you like that? Do you
absolutely.
have to just get it out?
Yes, I can hold things in my head for a while, but
Mhm.
at some point, yeah, I need to write it down, take notes so I don't forget. And it can be things from a new idea for a story, and actually some of the books that that came out as that I'm working on where
Mhm.
those ideas I just would not let go. It's like I have to do something with it, so I have to write some notes and then work on it, and eventually I'm gonna have a more fleshed out idea for a book.
Uh-huh.
Or sometimes it could just be like, oh, I need to change that word on page 71. Like it can be those very like specific things. I just have an illumination of like, this word would be a much better choice. I have to change it. And I'm gonna do that. Now let's pick up my phone. I use OneDrive so I can do
Mhm.
it from anywhere. So yeah, sometimes I'll do that. And I try not to do that if I'm having a conversation with someone. I'll wait until I'm done, right? I don't
Mhm.
want to be like, please stop. I have to take notes. But as soon as I'm like done, I'll be like, okay, let's take notes.
I do that with I can interrupt my husband because we have an understanding where I go, wait, I have an idea. That's fine. Or if like I'm just about to fall asleep, sometimes I go, oh, I have to write this down, otherwise I will forget because I'm not good at remembering things. So I'm impressed that you
Yeah.
can. Um,
Not forever. At
yeah,
some point I need to write down things, or I know I'm gonna forget. Um,
I don't
it's
think you're quite there yet.
I will. Honestly, I've noticed the past few years that I tend to forget things a bit more. I don't know if it's just aging, or if it's being overwhelmed with too many things. I guess it's a bit of both.
Mhm,
But your brains is to get ideas, not to remember them.
mhm,
By the way, it's not a quote by me. It comes from a book called Getting Things Done. I'm nonfiction, but it's
mhm,
about like productivity. And by the way, it's a great read if you want to improve your productivity.
mhm,
And the way to do it is to stop trying to remember everything. Like take notes, like don't try to hold everything in your head.
mhm.
Otherwise it's gonna explode eventually. I mean, not literally, but metaphorically. So I'm trying to, yeah, note things, because even if you have a great memory, which I do, we're only human, and at some point you're gonna reach your capacity and you need to take notes.
Yeah.
So yeah, take notes.
Yeah, and absolutely, I agree with the, if you're really, really busy, or if you have lots of things that you're juggling,
Yeah,
it is really hard to remember stuff
it
because
is.
you get fatigued, overwhelmed. Like your brain kind of protects you a little bit because your brain's only really meant for survival. Like we as a species have advanced way faster than we should have done because of technology and things like that. We shouldn't have access to that much news. We shouldn't have access to that much trauma. To get traumatized, you just got to open the horrible little box that we keep in our pockets, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what is my name? I'm just too busy being horrified of what I've seen. So yeah, there is that as well. I've been listening to the audiobook for A Legacy of Blood and Bone. And in order for me to listen to the whole thing before this show, I tried listening to it at 2x speed. Couldn't do it. I don't know how people can do that. So I listened to it at the regular speed, and I'm really enjoying this flitting between different narrators that you have going on in the process. Because I know that you've worked with your publisher for this, I assume. What was the process like for finding your narrators?
It's a great question. So yes, Spotify produced the audiobook, so they partner with Row House Publishing, which is a publisher of, Brick and Bloom is their imprint. And I did not really give them any names of narrators that I had in mind. I know some people really love audiobooks and they have their favorite narrators and maybe their dream narrators that they would like to have for their own books. I did not have any. So they sent me audition samples, actually. So they auditioned 4 different narrators, and they said, we recommend that you go with 2, and we alternate between the 2 main characters. And here are the 4 narrators that we think would be great. They had actually told me, we think those 2 would be good for Obeline, those 2 would be good for Vinny. You can still change, if you like 2 of them that we recommend for Vinny, we could still have one do Obeline or vice versa. And I listened to the samples. They were all very good. I was very happy with that, especially the pronunciation of the French words. So that's one thing I had told Row House Publishing. I told them, when you work with Spotify, just make sure that pick narrators who can pronounce French correctly. And most narrators actually are really good at pronouncing foreign words. I mean, some are better than others, but it's part of the skills, that they learn and they grow as narrators. It's not just a different accent in English, but it's also pronouncing words from different languages. So I had just told them, just try to pick someone who can do that well. And I don't have any specific preference for a British accent or an American accent. I mean, technically all the characters in my book are speaking French, so it doesn't really matter. I will let Spotify pick if they think there is one that would be better suited for the book. So yeah, they sent me those samples, listen to them. I only had about 24 hours to tell them of my decision. Yes, it was an intense day of listening, re-listening with my agent, with a couple of friends who are, audiobook enthusiasts, to get their input. And it was hard, especially for the narrators doing Obeline. I hesitated a lot because the 2 that sent me were really good. But I had to make a choice. So eventually, based on different criteria and elements, we picked, I picked the narrators that they had, 2 of the narrators that they had recommended. One thing that, by the way, I thought it's interesting to share, because I never thought about it as an author when I was listening to the samples. And if we have other writers on the show who are thinking about getting an audiobook produced, is accessibility. When we think about audiobooks, we think, oh, it's great, it's accessible. People who have, vision issues can listen to books. But you also have to think about people who may have hearing issues, who still love audiobooks, but maybe, they have some hearing loss. Or just the fact that a lot of people listen to audiobooks when they're commuting. So there is, noise on the train or on the road. And one friend told me, actually, this narrator, they're both great. But this one whispers a little bit, maybe too much. and
Okay.
might be a bit hard to hear. So it wasn't really that the performance was bad. Like, again, the four were really amazing. It was really hard. But eventually I thought, I think accessibility matters. I want to make sure that everybody is able to fully enjoy the audiobook, including people who may, have hearing loss or be listening to the book on their commute and not in a quiet room at home.
Yeah.
So that's also influenced my decision. So yeah, it was really short, just 24 hours. It was a Monday, so I was supposed to work. I was not in the office, but I was working from home, and still, I think actually I might have been in the office, actually. Anyway, so I was trying to work while listening again to the samples and waiting for my friends to give me some feedback too. But I'm very happy with the narrators we went with. I think they're phenomenal. Yeah.
I feel like as well their skill level for pronunciation and pacing was like really well matched. At first I was like, oh, that is another person, and they had a distinctly different voice, but it took me a minute to realize it was a different person. But yeah, it was really impressive. I was trying to work out what their accents actually were.
I'm not.
Are they British?
I'm not an expert. Ella is British, and I believe that Emily is actually American. I may be wrong. I'm pretty sure for Ella that she's British. I'm not 100% sure for Emily. But I think they're both great. Like the way, they're narrating the book, I think is very suited for the time and the period, the characters. So very happy with their accent and pronunciation. I think it's really good.
For sure. Yeah. And
that played a big part too. Sometimes when I was hesitating, I was like, oh, this one pronounced better. Which I know is a tricky one in French. So I'm like, I'll go with her.
It was I think they brought a nice drama to it.
Yeah.
They were able to, it was like listening to a play of the book. It's nice. I've been enjoying it. I really have. I don't normally listen to audiobooks, but I thought, I'll give it a go. And I was really pleasantly surprised.
Good way to listen to that book, to read it, because it's a digital first release, meaning that right now it only has the ebook and the audiobook. It doesn't have a print copy yet.
Yeah.
It may get a print run eventually. That's one thing, by the way, I need to discuss with my publisher.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in my contract that when we reach some freehold, it's going to have a print run, but we had discussed maybe doing one sooner. So I'll have to check that with them. But based on the fact that it only has an ebook and audiobook, I feel like the audiobook is the way to read that book. Like, I mean, I love ebooks too. I have my e-reader here. I do read most of my books in ebook, but audiobook I think is really a great way to immerse yourself in this specific story.
For sure, yeah. Because I don't get me wrong, I've been enjoying it, but I don't tend to go for historical fantasy or anything that has a historical element to it, because it isn't often that I find that many authors are able to make it not boring.
Yeah.
Please don't hate me for saying this, I don't really care for history as a subject. I like old architecture and things like that, but I start to shut down when people are telling me about things from the past. In my mind, I go, leave it in the past, live in the present.
Let's do sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. However, the subject matter is really interesting, and I love these really unique, this unique magic system that you have within it. I also love that there's a sapphic romance in it, but it doesn't feel forced. That's what I appreciate. It's not like, oh, let me put this in as like a mascot. It feels really genuine and grows in a really sort of steady way, and I've been really enjoying that as well. So yeah, I love this concept of I don't know how much I can say, so I'm just going to say a little bit. I love the concept of the blood magic and the bone magic and the other magic. I don't want to say it just in case it's a surprise. And the whole thing is really curious to me, because it's a tiny bit horror. If you think about the concept of actually what this thing is, it is a little bit horror, and I love horror, so I was really pleased.
Yes, it's I don't know how far you are in the book. You didn't finish it, right? You're still listening to it.
Yes.
Or did you? Okay. The last third of the book gets dark and even more horrific, because like you said, when you think about the magic itself, if used well, great, you can do amazing things and you don't hurt yourself. But if you use too much of it, or if you misuse it, that can lead to serious, I would say, body injury. So we're talking about a tiny bit of body horror. it's not like a really big horrific book with a lot of gross details, so not at all, but it gets dark, right? Because it explores what if this magic is being used, the wrong way. And no spoilers, but as you progress into story, you discover those different branches of magic, and there are three of them, which are not spoilers. So, like you said, there is a blood magic. So there is a stable family; they can use their own blood. They don't need to like cut their arm open. Like they just use the blood from inside their body, like you would use, I don't know, like energy or whatever when you do magic in another magic system, to heal people, to heal themselves. They can also change in an animals. That's something that's revealed pretty early in the book, so it's not a spoiler. And then we have the bone magic, so they can use their bones to get superhuman strength. They can also become insensitive to pain, which I think is pretty cool. And the third one is the flesh magic. So that's the Montenot. By the way, I forgot to do about mine for the second family, is the bone magic. Not that you can remember all those names, it's okay. For people who are just listening, there is no test at the end. Then there is a Montenot who can use flesh magic. So think about your muscles, the fat, or maybe even your organs when you think about it, which obviously is not recommended. I would not recommend it to use your heart to perform magic. You might die pretty quickly, but they could technically. It's like this idea of like you can use your organs, your flesh, to perform telekinesis and mind control. So that's like the three magics, and depending on the type of powers they use, they're going to use more or less of whatever fuel like they use. So for example, for the blood magic, healing a minor injury doesn't use too much, that's fine. But if you use it to heal something really major, or you change in an animal, that's going to be a lot. So you can't do that every day all the time. So they have to pace themselves in how much they use their own magic, because they are limited by their own body, basically. But like in a physical way. It's not like in some magic system where you see them using a lot of magic and then suddenly they feel tired, like, oh, it's used a lot of like energy, I'm just exhausted because I've done a lot of effort. It's like, if I use more of it, I'm literally gonna die or break my bones, or use an organ that I should not be using, and I'm gonna have some serious trouble. So you're right, in that sense, it can become horrific.
Yeah, which I loved. Big fan of that.
Yes, I'm glad you like that.
And obviously, the Dark Veil Society is the Blake Myers horror author. They also love dark stuff.
Yeah.
Lovely. Hello, Ellen Holmes.
Hey.
Oh, Ellen Holmes girl.
Friend, thanks for coming.
She's almost always here, which I love. Super what supportive human being. She was telling me how great this book was, and that was one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because I was like, okay, let me find out more about this thing. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Again, as I said, it's really outside of my things that I usually will read, and you've done a very good job with it, making it a bit different. Like, what was I hate asking this question because it's so like cliche, but what was the inspiration behind this particular story? Because I know that with some of your other books, they are fairy tale retellings. What was the core of this one?
Okay, so this one is actually a funny story on how I came up with the idea, and I told the author. So if you read historical fantasy, which sounds like it's not necessarily what you're reading, but if we have anybody who is into historical fantasy or just fantasy in general or romantic fantasy, I love Charlie and Holmberg's books.
Okay.
And so I follow her. I read pretty much anything she writes. And a while ago, she did an Ask Me Anything on Instagram, and someone asked, what was the most original or weird magic system or book that you worked on and that never got published? And she answered saying, oh, I had this idea about, I think it was like a Regency historical fantasy story. I'm just recalling, it was a while ago, but like, and women could use, they had corset and they could use like their ribs to perform some magic. And she was like, eventually it became like a little too silly. She was like, I wrote 20,000 words of it, and then I realized, no, this magic system is definitely a little too silly. Like it's not working. So she never continued it. And
Mm.
yeah, I agree. The way she explained it, I was like, okay, maybe not corset and reeds magic, but what about still like body magic coming from your bones? And that was like the trigger. And eventually it expanded to this whole like more complex magic system. But that was the spark. Like really, I owe her that. Like the spark for the idea of going with a magic system that is using your body. Of course, it went beyond, like bones or rib, and the book itself, I'm sure, is very different from what hers would have been. But that was really the spark, and it's a bit unique in my case because often, like many writers, and I know it's talking about cliche, but many of my books start as dreams. So I dream about something, and then it evolves into a very cliche, but it's true. Many of the ideas I have start with a dream, and even if the story itself at the end is completely different from what the dream was, also because dream logic is weird, so you can't actually make a story out of it. You need to actually make it a bit more realistic or like doable. So that's how many of my books, I got the idea from. This one, absolutely not. It really started as this inspiration from Holmberg, which I really, really appreciate her as a writer. She's really nice. Also, we've interacted online, and I'm a big fan. So yeah, I'm very proud that I can say that one of her ideas that didn't go used actually triggered this whole other idea that I ended up making a book about. So that's how it started.
That's so nice. Yeah. I'm glad you're able
it's a fun story, and ask me anything by another writer.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're able to take inspiration from somebody else's work, especially if they didn't continue with it, because then you're kind of almost resurrecting it. And
kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
A tiny bit of it, yes.
Yeah. A book necromancer.
Yeah.
So that came out in 2025.
Yes.
In terms of your 2026 releases, could you tell us a little bit about what to expect from these two?
Yeah, so next month I have The Seventh Sister. It's a novella, quick read. It's a little over 100 pages. I think it's like 120 pages. For those who think in words like writers do. It's 30K. So 30K, it's a quick read. It's another fairy tale retelling, so I've written many of them. And actually my 2 books coming this year are fairy tale retelling. So The Seventh Sister is, it's also my first attempt at horror fantasy. So really trying to blend the 2 genres, a bit beyond dark fantasy. So I wanted a fantasy setting, and the setting is very inspired by Snow White. So that's what it is a retelling of, plus a whole fantasy world and magic system, which has nothing to do with the original tale that I created for the story. But I would say the premise of this, protagonist who gets chased from her home because, her parental figure is becoming jealous of her, that's very Snow White, right? So when you start reading The Seventh Sister, it will obviously remind you of Snow White. That's intentional. But then when it goes more into the horror is the retelling of Bluebird. And if you know that tale, it's, this woman, she marries a man called Bluebird, who had many wives before, and he's marrying her now. And he tells her, when she moves into his home, here are the keys of the house. I'm going on a trip. You can go anywhere except this room. So it's like giving her the key and say, you don't go into that room. You don't use that key. Of course, she goes into the room. Risky, right? I don't know why would he do that? Anyway, she goes into the room and she finds all the dead wives. So she finds out that he's killing his wives, and she dropped the key. It gets tainted with blood. So when he comes back, he knows that she went into the room and he's about to kill her. And then the 2 brothers of the protagonist shows up. They kill him, and she's saved. And anyway, that's the original tale. So I went with this vibe of, there is a mystery, something's going on in that house, and different women that she's moving into this place called Sanctuary with other women who live there as refugees. And she realized that the place is a bit weird. Some of the sisters, because that's why it's called the seventh sister, because all the women living in sanctuary calls themselves sisters, like sisters in hardship.
Yeah.
And they start disappearing, and something's weird's going on. So I won't say more because then spoilers. But that's when I wanted to go into the more like horror aspect of it,
Yeah.
which is this dread of like, okay, something's going on. Is that normal? Or because at first they think that they're just gone, that they left sanctuary, but did they really leave, or did something bad happen to them? So that's the Seven Sister. It's coming next month. Blend of fantasy and horror. It should please fans of both genres. But yeah, if you're not into anything dark, which I know some people like their fantasy not dark, yeah, don't go for it. That's dark and a bit creepy and filled with dread. But if that's your jam, go with it.
Sounds good to me.
My jam too, so I love that. I wouldn't write it otherwise. The second one's A Color of Time, is another fairy tale retelling of another tale called Donkey Skin, which a lot of people don't know. Like, unless you are a fairy tale nerd, then in this case you know it because you know everything about all the fairy tales. But yeah, the only people so far that I've met that know a Donkey Skin are either fairy tale nerds or French people. Because it's a French fairy tale by Charles Perrault, and there was a movie, a French movie made in over 50 years ago. It's an old movie, but it's a bit of a classic because the adaptation of the tale was a little flashy. It was really, really funny, and it has some really famous actresses in it. So it's a bit of a classic movie in France. So even if you've never read the tale, you may have seen the movie, depending on your age. If you're my age or even younger, even if you're French, you may have never seen the movie and will never see it. But, maybe my parents' generation, they've all seen the movie, so they know Donkey Skin. But the tale itself is really creepy, and that's why it never became a Disney movie. Because the premise is that the king of some very wealthy kingdom loses a wife, so the queen dies, and she makes him promise to never marry again unless he finds a woman that is as beautiful and as virtuous as herself. The king, heartbroken, is like, oh sure, I will never marry again unless I find a woman that is as good as you. And that's basically a way for the queen to make sure he never marries again, because she's
she's great.
She's great, right? So she has right. This queen is really like, she thinks very highly of herself. But it sounds like she was right, because the king really cannot find anyone else except one person.
His
own daughter. Exactly. His daughter. His daughter, she's amazing, the princess. So he's going to marry her. So obviously Donkey Skin, the princess, is like, what? Excuse me? Not going to marry my dad? That's not okay. And she goes to her fairy godmother and she asks, for help. Like, how can I avoid this union? Or actually, she's even in the original tale, she's almost a little bit like in the movie, it's the same, like, is that actually okay or not? And the fairy tale, the fairy godmother, she's like, no, that's not okay. You want to avoid that. Like, I know he's a king, I know you love your dad, but you don't love him the same way, that you love his spouse. And so Donkey Skin's like, okay, how do we avoid that? Because he's a king, so he can do anything he wants. I can't really say no. And so they go with this series of gifts, like ask him for a dress the color of the sky, a dress the color of the moon, and a dress the color of the weather of the sky. It's the sun, the moon, the sky. Okay. All right, getting in the wrong order. She does that, and of course, every time the king delivers, and then the fairy godmother is like, okay, what else can we ask him? Because it sounds like he can really do anything. Oh, I know. Ask him to kill his magic donkey, because he has a magic donkey that poops gold. And that's why the kingdom is so wealthy, right? So the fairy godmother is like, he's never going to kill his donkey, because if he kills his donkey, he's like killing his source of wealth. But the king is so, in love with his daughters that he actually kills the donkey. And that's how then the protagonist becomes Donkey Skin, because she hides under the donkey skin, because she's like, okay, I have no choice. I have to get out of here, right? Because he's going to do anything, so I have to flee. So she flees under the donkey skin. She lives as like a kitchen girl in some other country where she found refuge, and everybody's mocking her because she's so ugly under her donkey skin. She's hiding that she's a princess. And then it turns into Cinderella because the prince of that other kingdom somehow finds out that she's actually beautiful and she's a princess, and he falls in love with her, and he says, I want a cake by donkey skin. So she makes a cake for him, and she puts her ring in it. And then he eats the cake, he finds a ring, he says, I'm going to marry the woman that can wear this ring, a bit like, Cinderella and the shoe. She tries the ring. Oh, she's actually this great princess. And then she marries the prince. Everything is well, ends well. And the king actually shows up. Like her dad, he shows up to the wedding, and it's nothing happened. Yeah, it's like nothing happened. So in the original tale, she's saved, from her ordeal because she marries that other prince in that other country, and her dad shows up like nothing happened, not even apologizing, like, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I wanted to marry you and I forced you to flee. And so yeah, that got me super upset, even if I understand why Perrault made that choice, because I think, kings could do really anything they wanted. And even today, when you look at people in power, they can do a lot of things and get away with it, right? There is no accountability. And so that did not surprise me. So it's not a critique of Perrault, but when I wrote my retelling, I knew I wanted the antagonist to face the consequences, like to get some accountability.
Cool.
So that's, that original tale. Sorry, it took time to explain it, but I know a lot of people are not familiar with donkey skin. So that's a retelling of that tale, but with a sci-fi spin, a soft sci-fi spin. Like, think about Dune, in the sense that there are some powers that are really magical, and the science itself is not meant to be like hard science. It's a fairy tale, but it just happens to take place in a space opera setting, so it can have a bit of a grander scale. And then I gave it a sapphic, spin too, because I didn't want my protagonist to be saved by the prince. And even with this other woman that she meets, I didn't want that other woman to save her either. I wanted them to save each other. So I won't go into spoilers, because then it takes a very different turn than the original tale. Like the second half is a lot more into this politics on the other planet where she finds refuge, and there are a lot of moving pieces. So it gets really into like politics at this point, and the romance, of course, between the two. But yeah, it's my way to kind of respond to this original tale and say, I loved it. It's a great tale. Let's just give it a sci-fi punk sapphic twist, and address the issues that I had with the original version of the tale. So it's going to be a very divisive book, I think, because the narration itself is very different from your usual book. It's told in a blend of second and first person narration.
Cool.
So far, people who've read it, who are fine with this type of more experimental form, have really enjoyed it. I know some people are not big fan of second person, so I fully expect some people to just, pick it up, read a few pages, and be like, nope, that's not for me. And that's okay, I don't plan on my books to please every single reader. But if you're not caught away by that, or if you're willing to give it its chance, and, everything makes sense as you keep reading, and you understand why, there is a reason why the story is told this way. It's not just some fun, I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm just going to pick something hard. I thought it was what was the most appropriate for the story and for the way it's told. So I'm very excited about it. We just revealed the cover today, which everyone you can see on your screen. The art is made by Alyssa Winans, which I'm a huge fan of. It's been a dream for me to have a cover art made by her, and I can't believe it happened. So huge thanks to my publisher, Shiraki Press, for working with Alyssa. And very excited about this release coming in May this year.
That's awesome. I will say, going through your back catalogue of things, all the covers from all of your work, gorgeous.
Oh,
stunning.
you.
Beautiful. I wasn't expecting a Donkey Hannibal situation. That took me by surprise. I'm still processing the imagery a little bit. sounds horrendous, and I can at first I was like, oh, I wonder why Disney wouldn't pick it up, but
Yeah,
now I see.
Yeah, no, incest I think is not very Disney friendly. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, although I will say, they did take on Star Wars, and there is that famous scene in Star Wars where he comes into the Tauntaun. So, I mean,
yeah,
that's not outside the realms of possibility, but probably incest.
Yeah, because in this case, it's not an accident, right? It's actually like on purpose that the king, wants to actually marry his daughter or his sister in the case of The Color of Time, because I switch things a bit. So in my version, it's not the daughter, it's a sister, and it's not a magic donkey. It's a giant space snake, which is why also it has those beautiful snakes on the cover.
Yeah, it's a stunning cover. I really like the color composition as well. It's really nice.
Yeah, Lisa did a great job. I'm so happy with it.
So I don't blame you. I'd be thrilled if that was my book. So before, because time goes by so fast on the show. It's already been 40 minutes. And I don't want to let you leave until I have mentioned a couple of things. So the first thing is small pitch. Which is huge and amazing. And I'd love for you to tell us about why you decided to put this thing together and what it's all about for those who don't know.
Yeah, so Small Pitch is an online pitch event meant at connecting writers with small publishers. So the reason I decided to put it together a couple of years ago was because I was a growing writer at the time. I was participating in pitch events, and I noticed all those pitch events are really geared towards agents, which is great. I have an agent. I love my agent. I love them. They're amazing. But I found there is no event geared towards publishers. In the existing pitch event, that have been around for a while, they were always open to small presses, and some of them participated. Sometimes I know a couple of friends who signed with small presses via those other events that are not small press specific. So that happens. But the thing is, the hope of most participating writers is to land an agent, and small presses are competing with those agents when they're expressing interest in a pitch. So the odds of them, signing a writer is not very high. And for writers, they are looking actually for an agent. So they may not necessarily be really interested in getting interest from a small press. So I thought, what if I actually filled that gap by creating an event for people who are actually interested in publishing with small presses, with or without an agent. It started for unagented writers, but we also have a session in January that is open to underrepresented writers who can be agented.
That's cool.
And it doesn't mean that it has to be your only path, right? Even some writers who are published with Big Five, like big publishers, sometimes they have a book that's not necessarily the best fit for this type of publisher, and that could be a better fit for a small press. So that's also why the event is open to anybody, regardless of their writing path. If they have published before, or if they have never published, if they're new, maybe they have self-published some titles in the past, maybe they've worked with big publishers, and they are just, they have a manuscript or 2 or 3, because we accept up to 3 manuscripts per event, per writer, that could be a good fit with a small press, and they're interested in pitching their book to this audience. We also open it to different formats, because most pitch events are also for novels, because again, it's for agents, and the majority of agents, when they sign new clients, they will sign for a novel. It's a lot more difficult to sign with an agent if you have a short story collection or a novella. I mean, it happens, but it's more difficult. And with a small publisher, actually, some of them are specialized in short story collection or novella, or they accept them, even if that's not what they specialize in. So again, that's why, what I was saying, some manuscript could be a better fit for those smaller indie presses. So that's why I started it. And so now we run it twice a year. I've been joined by 2 amazing people, Florence and Morgan. If you go on smallpitch.org and you go in About Us, you can see our pictures and who we are. So I've got a great team now, because I started just by myself, and I realized, that's a lot of work, especially as I had a really, really amazing feedback, from the community, from both the small publishers that I reached out to and invited to the event, and writers who participated. So I
Mhm.
realized, yeah, I need to grow a little team to have people helping me. And
Mhm.
then the second thing that was really important for me was to move away from social media platform, because it started on Twitter, and then I tried maybe Thread, and I considered Blue Sky, but I realized those platforms comes and go. They change their algorithms, they change the way they work or whatever, and it would be best to have something that we own and that we don't depend, like not to depend on social media platforms. So
Mhm.
Florence did an amazing job at finding some tools that she put together, and now we have our own platform, so people fill out the pitch on a Google form. So that's really simple too. That also means you don't need to be on a specific platform
Mhm.
as a writer, right? Some people are not on Twitter, or they're not on Blue Sky, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You just need internet, like, which I think most people have. You need internet access and a device.
Mhm.
Can be on your phone or your computer, anything, and then just click the link, fill out the information about your book, just follow the guidelines,
Mhm.
put your pitch into the system, and then we have our own platform for publishers to browse the pitch in, and then they can submit their request. It's all automated, meaning that writers will get requests in real time.
Mhm.
They don't need to wait for us to do anything. So that's also one thing that Florence managed to put in place, and I'm
That's
very proud of
amazing.
it. So that's an event that we've been running now for, I believe the edition we just had was the fourth one, if I count
Amazing.
correctly, because I started in July 2024.
Mhm.
Yes, I think that's been,
That's
almost two
really
years.
cool.
So it's a great event. It's open to everyone in July. That is unagented. So if you're a writer interested maybe in working with indie presses, give it a try. Who knows?
Amazing. I love that so much. Like I can't even tell you how much I love that. And it's so cool that you've taken it off of social media. Because at least then people aren't like battling for attention and then not being
That's the
seen.
thing too. Yeah, is that because there is no algorithm and the pitches are displayed in random order on the
Mm.
platform, and people, like the publishers, can filter by the genre and audience, and books that
Oh,
they
that's
are interested in
beautiful.
acquiring. Yeah, there is also no like mood board, or things that could maybe
Sway people.
sway
Yeah,
people, and like, oh look, it's pretty, it's fancy, so everybody gets a fair shot, in my opinion.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased. I just love it when people like yourself see a gap and you're like, there really should be this thing here, and they do it. I love it. It
I
makes me
just run
so
with it. I was like, okay, let's
unbelievably
do
happy.
this. Yeah, it's been
Um,
great. Yeah.
so not only were you already busy with like writing and your job and all that sort of stuff, releasing books, doing small pitch, you also assist Ellen Holmes with the Small Spec Book Awards, which is just kicking off now. Um, Tell me about that. I've already spoken to Holmes about it, but what's your sort of role? What's your experience been like? Um, Preferably good stuff because she's
Yeah.
listening.
I can't badmouth Ellen. No, I'm kidding. Not that I was planning on. Ellen is amazing.
Couldn't possibly
So yeah.
badmouth her. She's too nice.
Uh,
She's too great.
Ellen is the same. I wonder when she sleeps.
I
Because
know.
yeah, she also does a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and that includes the Small Spec Book Awards, or SSBA for short.
Hmm.
So Ellen, yeah, reached out to me a year and a half ago
Hmm.
about that. Yes, because that's the second year we're running it. So Ellen reached out to me saying, hey, I'm planning on launching that thing. Same, Ellen had the idea because that was also filling a gap. There was
Hmm.
no like similar award for small press books.
Hmm.
That was also inspired by there's a similar like event for self-published
Hmm.
books. So Ellen was inspired by that, like let's do the same for small presses.
Hmm.
And so she reached out to me saying, are you interested in helping me, since you're already connected with small presses via small pitch?
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense,
Mm.
right? So I was like, sure, I'd be happy to help. So the way I help, because I think it's Helen's baby. So it's Ellen's baby, but I want to make sure that I can help as much as I can, and that it's a beautiful baby, and I'm so happy to be involved with it. So again, Ellen, thanks you for getting me on board and helping shape the SSBA. And now it's the second year. So the first thing, has been to brainstorm with Ellen, like think about how do we want to run it, like what are the criteria, what are the guidelines. So I helped Ellen by like doing all the brainstorming when we launched it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, as we thought about like how do we want to make improvement based on last year.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen, for
I had to put that up there. That's adorable.
No, I don't have anything bad to tell about you. You've been amazing too, and I'm glad you came to me and we made this happen. So yeah, the first step was just a brainstorming, and and then we also have an issue like something happening, and Ellen will come to me or I will come to Ellen, like I noticed something and like, okay, what should we do? Which can be a bit difficult when it's just you, like you have to take a decision by yourself. It can be good to have a sounding board, like someone who you can brainstorm with, and that's also something I like with small pitch. I started alone, and I'm glad I have Florence and Morgan. So sometimes it's like same, like what should we do? And then the more like I would say logistics aspect, which is creating visual for Instagram, posting them. Also, when we have submission, I take care of compiling all the submission we receive, check the books are eligible. This year, I created a little library for readers. So we have a great pool of volunteers, of readers who read the books and then assess the books. And that's how it works. It's not a popularity contest, which I love. So we try for all the books that are nominated to get assessed as fairly as possible, even if, of course, there is always a bit of subjectivity, because when we ask someone like, was the pacing good? Someone will say, yeah, it was amazing. And someone else will say, oh no, I didn't like it. So there is still a bit, of subjectivity, obviously, in the assessment of the books, but at least it's not, based on how many people like that book and then they go vote for it. It's really like each book get read by about the same number of readers, and they all get a chance. They're all read by our readers. So I, created a little library this year for them to look at it if they have questions. Because last year, what we figured is that a lot of the writers or influencers like yourself also have a question about the author and the books. And so I thought, let's put together a nice little online library with the information about the books and the writers. So our readers and influencers can access that. So that's the type of things I do. I try to like make Ellen's life a bit easier by doing some of the compiling information in Excel and things like this. Ellen still does a lot. I think she still does more than I do. And so this year we started discussing, maybe we should get some more help, because that's a lot. So we'll see. We'll keep chatting about it. But yeah, I try to help by creating all those visuals in January when we get all the books that comes out, and through the year promoting the writers. Then as we move to the semifinal and the finalists, to create those new visual and then get them posted online. Things like that. And yeah, then improving one thing I did was also improving the submission form, because for publishers, because the books are nominated by publishers. And we realized that the form we had last year was very easy for publishers, but then it made our lives really hard because we had to gather a lot of extra information. So I thought, let's make their lives a little harder. They'll have to spend a little bit more time to fill out the form. And then for us, we'll have a lot more information already handy, so we don't have to chase it, through tons of emails, which I know was a lot on Ellen's plate last year. So,
yeah, I think when you boil it down to, if there's like 30 people that are filling out this form, but there are only 2 people that look at the form, let them do the work.
Yeah, and for them, they just nominate a few books. We get dozens of them. So, yeah.
Yeah. I actually, last year I found a ton of books that I loved, and I got to meet a load of authors that I love. So it's been a really lovely experience, and
love that. That's really our goal. Yeah, to get more able on those books. And I think the happiest moment last year, and I'm sure this year is going to be the same, was seeing, reading the feedback from our influencers or readers saying, I just discovered my new favorite author or my favorite book of the year. And they would have never discovered it without our event, or maybe like more difficultly. So
for sure,
that's why we do this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a fantastic thing, and I'm seeing it grow, and I hope it never stops because I can see this becoming like a really like massive thing, and it's nice to see like new readers. Like I was trying to push people that I know to get involved. So I'm like, it's fun. You need to get involved because there's sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. Obviously, I'm a horror girl, but I read some sci-fi and I read some fantasy that I really enjoyed, and some of them are kind of like cross genre. You can kind of see why they're in the category they're in. But yeah, I love it so much. It makes me really happy that it exists. So before I let you leave, I always ask 2 questions of each guest. So if you do have a question for Millie, please do put it in the chat. And Sarah is in awe of you. She said that she's tired just imagining doing all of the things. Me too, honestly. It's making my eyes a bit heavy. Like, how do you do it? I sometimes find it hard to get out of bed.
Confession, I also find it hard to get out of bed. So that's why I get the things done on my phone.
Smart. I like it.
From my bed. So yeah.
I love that horizontal productivity.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna call it that way now. Like, yeah, when my spouse is like, "Are you still in bed?" I'm like, "I'm being horizontally productive."
There you go. So the 2 questions that I always ask of each guest is, what does success look like to you as a writer?
It's a tough one because I feel like it's always some like a moving post, right? There's always a moving goalpost.
Yes.
Success might look like one thing a specific year, and then next year you have this new goal, and you're like, success actually is going to look like when this happened. So I'm going to take a step back. Yeah, I would say right now, and I think I've already reached success in a way, is getting a reader emailing me and thanking me for writing that book. Really, like just finding your audience, finding readers who resonate with your book is definitely, for me, success. Like, even if it's just one person in the world, hopefully more, but even if it's just one, it's such an amazing feeling when you receive that email. So by the way, if you're a reader and you wonder, is that okay to email that author to tell them I love their book? Yes, please do so. Please do so. It's not creepy. It's not cringy, unless your email is weird, but like itself, like,
be careful.
don't put weird stuff in it. But if you just email us saying, hey, I read that book, I really loved it, thank you, that's going to make our day, and really more than our day. Sometimes it's just give us the little boost that we need to keep writing, because it's not always easy, right? We have a lot of self-doubt. So it happened to me for Daughters of the Blue Moon. I remember getting that email from a reader just thanking me for writing the book.
That's nice.
It's an amazing feeling. Another thing that maybe it's not success, but it's something I would love to see, is getting fan art and fanfic made of my work. It would be so fun. Yeah. I would not go look at the fanfic, that I love fanfics. I used to write fanfic. So if someone, one day write a fanfic of any of my work, they can tell me about it. I'm not going to go and read it, because that can be, a bit problematic. Like, I don't want to get influenced by ideas from other people, right? But I would be very happy. And if it's fan art, yeah, please send it my way. I'll look at it and be just like, looks so great. So that's one thing I'm gonna say. If that ever happens, it's gonna be like huge goal achieved, like getting fan work made of your own original writing.
That's a goal. I've spoken to a couple of authors that have that, and they're just over the moon.
It's amazing, honestly. I can't wait for it to happen. If that ever happens, maybe it will never happen, but I don't know, maybe one day I'll get one, maybe a fan art or something. That'd be so cool.
I mean, it's such a compliment for somebody to go, your art made me want to create art.
I agree. Gorgeous. Yeah, like
love it.
Your own art so much that I made something from that art. Like, I love that. Yes.
So, question from Sarah. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Wombles.
The Wombles.
It's a TV show from, I don't even remember when it's from, the 90s maybe.
Okay.
And it's very popular in England, and it was about these little creatures with triangular faces like this.
Oh.
And they would collect rubbish from the streets, which is wholesome and lovely. But every episode that Sarah, our new attends, she likes to ask people a Womble question. Oh no, hang on. She's got a Womble fact this time.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
so
give me a Womble fact.
hit us with the Womble fact, and we'll move to the next question while you're typing that out. Usually it's a question. This time it's a fact. I'm excited.
Okay.
So Millie, can we expect more horror from you in the future?
Maybe. I hope so. So like I mentioned, did I mention that? Yes, I have a horror novelette coming in an anthology, normally sometime this year. As soon as I hear more from the publisher, I will tell everyone about it. So that's going to be my first really like pure horror story. I call it pure horror just in the sense that it's set in a contemporary setting, you know, like so with like regular people going on with their lives, and then where stuff starts happening, and then it becomes really horrific. So that's going to be, I would say, my real horror story, the first one coming out this year. As for plans to write more horror stories, so if I look right now at the list of projects I have, none of them is horror. I have projects for more like sci-fi and fantasy books, but I would love to write more horror. I'm thinking either like sci-fi horror, which is a genre, like a mix of two genres that I really like reading. So some horror stories set in a sci-fi setting, or just some like more regular classic horror, maybe with a touch of supernatural, because I always like to add a bit of speculative. So I don't have any specific ideas or whips right now, but I hope to have more in the future. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is I can't tell you really more about it, because I will need to come up with an actual like book idea and project. And at this point, the ones I have are more in the fantasy realm.
Awesome. Sorry, I had to mute my mic because my dog keeps barking. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
She's moody. I had to leave her for a few hours this morning, and she is not a happy dog.
Oh.
She thinks she can hear something. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
She thinks she can hear something, and I'm certain she can't. I definitely think there's horror in you. There's more.
There is. Yes.
More to come. You just got.
There is more to come. I just don't know when. We'll see. But I want to write more horror, so eventually it will happen.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay. No pressure.
From you. That went away. So Sarah's Womble fact. There was a Womble who named herself Madame Cholet. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. She sometimes has a French accent and is a diva, which is a compliment. I didn't know that. So there you go.
Yeah, and you got it right. Cholet, I would pronounce it like this.
I think that's a compliment also from Blake.
Oh, thank you.
I think Beast is complimentary.
Yeah, I take it as a compliment, like I'm just doing a lot. Yes.
So my last question that I have for you. So I know that you had a love of writing way back when you were a kid, and you stopped and then you started again, you said 5-6 years ago. If you could go back to the first time that you picked up you said you do things digitally, the first time you started typing something out and you were like, I'm going to start writing again. If you could give that Millie any advice, what would you give?
I would go back to my very young self. I don't remember the age I was, but it was probably before the internet became mainstream, because I remember it was on paper. I had picked up a pen and, a piece of paper and started writing a story, and I trashed it pretty quickly, realizing, oh, that's crap. I would tell her, like, don't do that. Stop thinking it has to be perfect before you can start writing. Because even after, as I grew up, it took me a long time to realize that creativity is a skill that you need to foster. And when you have an idea, you need to let it grow and don't kill it right now because you feel like, oh no, it's silly, it's not good enough, I'm never going to be able to write it well, or my writing is bad, I'm just going to stop. So I would tell her, stop thinking you cannot do it because your ideas are not good or your writing is not good. Practice more, give a chance to your ideas to grow. And that's what I would tell her. And by the way, I'm going to pick a book that I have just next to me. I didn't think I would mention it, but that's Creativity by John Cleese. It's a very, very tiny book. It was a gift from my spouse a few years ago when I was struggling with this. Like, I had started writing, again, and with the goal of being published. So I was getting into it, but I reached a point, I remember, where I was like, do I have more ideas in me? Do I have more books in me? And, my spouse was like, that's actually, creativity is a skill, right? And I was like, you're right. And he gifted me this book, complete surprise. I read it and I understood why, when I was a kid or a teenager and I was dreaming of writing original fiction, I recently went back to my very old fan fiction. And you know how some fanfic writers, they will write those little notes at the beginning or end of a chapter when they post it. I had written that I had a plan for an original story. I had completely forgotten about it. So I was like, dang, I was still thinking, that was after when I was a kid and tossed the idea, it was in between. So I was like, it's always been a dream, but I always stopped because I felt that my ideas were bad or I didn't give them the time to grow. So that's what I would tell myself. Like, let your ideas grow. Don't kill them when they're still like small. Let them become big. And then eventually you can decide if, okay, maybe that's not the best idea, but give them a chance. And then when it comes to the actual act of writing, practice. Yeah, just do more of it. And it's okay if your first drafts are messy. You will get better. So that's what I would tell myself, because it's not really a regret that I have, because eventually I did what I should do, which is like pick up a pen, a keyboard, and write again. But sometimes I wish I would have done it sooner, by, allowing me to do it and not thinking, no, it's not good enough. So maybe I would just tell myself that, like, start now, don't wait, just try it and you'll see. So big recommendation if you're struggling with the concept of creativity and are my ideas good. This tiny little book helped me so much.
Also, I really like John Cleese. I think he's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think that's good advice for anybody, not just young Millie. So I want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm glad that you were able to make time to come here on my silly little show. I wish you nothing but the best. I can't wait to get to the last third darkness of this book. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it.
I did. It was great. Thank you for having me. Please invite me anytime again in the future, because I love that.
I will definitely. And if you're watching this now, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your time. Go check out Millie's books. I've put the link for her website in the description of the video, so you should be able to find that now. And apparently you can email her. That's fine.
Yeah, email me, fill out the form, contact me, just don't try to sell me anything or fan mail. Just I get so much. That's one thing, as we are talking about success, starting getting scammers in your inbox trying to sell you things.
Looks like we made it.
Yeah, I made it. I'm getting scammers telling me they're gonna sell me reviews or something that are all made by AI, I'm sure. Yeah. So please, fan mail, yes. Scammers, no.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you again. And I'm going to wave awkwardly, and I will see you on the other side. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.